How do you know when it's over for good with your ex? I'm Benny Lichten-Wallner. I help people get their exes back. And you know what's funny? I'm in everybody's shit. I've done calls with celebrities, a lot of celebrities. I hear people's stories, right? People get on the phone with me. We talk for 45 minutes. I talk to 10 people a day. I'm in everybody's shit, and I have this aerial view where I get to look down and see what tends to happen in people's relationships, breakups, and getting back together. Now, as you can imagine, I've heard every conceivable story that you can think of. Your situation's unique. I know it. I know that you think your situation's unique, and it is. It is unique, but I've heard it before in different ways. And I know the biggest question on your mind when your ex is pushing you away, they're saying they're done for good, and their friends and family are against you, and you're really, really sad. You feel like it's over for good. And that is your reality right now. I totally get why you feel that way. But there is nothing that lasts forever. Even with the opinions of some human, right? When I was a kid, I didn't like mayonnaise, I didn't like onions. I love both. I ate all that shit today on a Publix sandwich. Okay? Now, me as a kid, until now, you're not going to have to wait that long for your ex to change your mind. Whenever I started liking onions and mayonnaise, I was probably 20-something or whatever. But this is where my little aerial view comes into play. I know that on average, you really can't mess it up with your ex any longer than 3 to 6 months on average. Okay? For whatever reason, this tends to be the time period that people get curious about each other. The novelty factor builds up. They start to miss the person. They start to loosen up about the problems. And that connection that you had that's driving you to watch this video, by the way, the same connection that they feel will ultimately come right back into view for them, even if they've suppressed their feelings. And you'll have an in with them again later, somewhere, 3 to 6 months from now. Now, I realize that isn't very pleasant to have to wait that period of time, but it's better than it being over for good, is it not? Sometimes you just want to know, is it over for good? And that's your impatience, because you don't want to put 3 to 6 months of work in to get your ex back. You just want to know, is it a yes or is it a no? So I can satisfy my little emotions. I can either go cry and jerk off in the corner, or I can just have my person back just beautifully, right? And it's like, no, guess what? It ain't going to happen that way. It took work for you to get them. You had to focus on your single life. You were thriving. You had your friends, your hobbies. You were dating multiple people potentially. You kind of fell into that person and things tended to just work out organically. That's if you have a secure attachment. But if you have an insecure attachment, it might have happened faster than that. But hey, that's part of the problem, because we're here because of the insecure attachment, most likely. But here's something you need to know. Anything anyone ever says is an expression of how they feel in the moment. And that moment changes, okay? And depending on what you do and the things that you say, you're going to get different expressions from them, because they're going to feel a different way, especially when you start changing the circumstances. So if you put shitty ingredients in the cauldron all year, and then they taste it and they're like, oh, I think I want to break up. Start putting fucking different ingredients in the cauldron before you let them taste test it again and say the next thing. If you put good ingredients in the soup, when they taste it, they're going to be like, instead of saying, hey, I'm dumb for good, they're going to say, hey, what have you been up to lately? Reality is very dynamic, and you have an impact on what happens. You can get your ex back. You can go to somebody new. It's all up to you. But if you want my help with this process, click into my profile, click this link, set up a call with me, tell me your story, and I'll give you a step-by-step plan to get your ex back.